Welcome to For Advisors by Advisors. I'm your host, Evan J. Mayer. Today's topic is going to be about the day you leave your firm that you've been with maybe for a year, 5 years, 10 years, some of you maybe 20, 30 years, and you go to your new firm. It's a very scary day. There's a lot of setup in between for most of us, and it's a very emotional day. It's a day that you're dealing with highs and lows. You're excited, you're nervous, you're scared, you're happy. You are bipolar by all accounts on Independence Day, the day you're leaving. And again, it's not about going independent. It could be bank to bank. It could be wirehouse to wirehouse. It could be small broker dealer to independent to RIA. It could be anything. But the day you make that leave is a long day. It's a long few days. And unlike when you leave a normal job, which is fully salaried, where don't have clients, you're literally leaving firms, and that's scary, and joining a new firm. You don't know who your boss is going to be and all that. But when you're a financial advisor, I feel like it's double. And the reason I feel like it's double is that you also have a situation in which you have clients, and the firm you're leaving might believe that they're their clients, and by all accounts, you may believe that they're your clients. I was luckily leaving what they call a broker protocol firm and going to a broker protocol firm. And that basically meant we were able to take 5 pieces of info when we made the move. I'll go back into that momentarily. But I want to talk about that entire weekend and that day that I went independent, and that day of leaving that firm and going to the new firm, what it was like, so that people know there's a negative in moving, and it's this day, in my opinion. It's such a stressful, emotional day. So the night prior, I made sure that I ate really well. I think I had some grilled chicken and vegetables. I drank some water, and I went to bed really early. I think I was in bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock. No, I did not fall asleep then. I stayed up probably for another 2.5, 3 hours. And I think I finally went to sleep around 10:30. I woke up at 4. Now, normally that's not enough sleep. In this circumstance, you want 4 or 5 hours of sleep. If you can get 4 or 5 hours of sleep when you're going through this, that's a great thing. Now, I was going independent, and so I already had the office, the phones, all of that stuff was set up way before you go independent. So that stress is all done, okay? Your office is set up, it's official. It's actually scary because you have an office, but you don't have a business yet. You're not incorporated. You're not an actual business yet, but you have a lease and it's under your name, and you have all that done prior. Okay. For people that are not going independent, they're going to a different firm. They don't need to worry about that. Okay. That stuff, making sure the phones are working and everything is there, is done. So I went to sleep that night. I woke up. First thing I did around 6 a.m. is I texted my assistant. There was only 2 of us leaving. She was my operations manager / assistant. And at the time, I texted her and said, hey, are you up? And she said, I'm up. And we were kind of, nervous and going through this experience together. And like I said, this is going to be for a financial advisor. Hopefully you don't leave firms a lot. I've had to do this like 3 times in my career. But when you make that jump, it's a scary jump, right? It's an emotional jump, as I mentioned. So we decided to meet him at our office at 7:30 in the morning. Now, we were able to take, like I said, 5 pieces of information due to broker protocol. So we were able to take the name, the phone number, the address, the email, and I think the account type. I think that was the 5th thing. Now, we knew we were doing it by broker protocol because the place we were going to, they had the person that recruited me, shout out to Joe, great guy, was there for us all along the way. We had Jeremy, who was our transitions coordinator. We also had, I believe her name was Allison. She also transitioned us. She worked for the firm, and then Jeremy was actually an outside consultant for a super OSJ that we initially joined. And that was a really good situation. Again, if you do go independent, you can join a turnkey firm that has everything kind of done. We chose what we wanted and what we didn't want. We wanted our own office. We wanted our own name, all that good stuff. So when we made that move, the first thing is that Friday we decided to meet at 7:30. We made sure the phones were working. We made sure the internet was working. We made sure our computers were up and running. And we were ready to go when our licenses converted and after we had resigned. And at 7:30, we came in here, probably spent about 7 to 10 minutes making sure everything was set up. And then we headed to our old office. and we had keys, and it was 8 in the morning, and we got in before everybody else got in. And we made sure we had our personal belongings. We couldn't take anything else. Obviously, we didn't want to take anything of the bank's property. Didn't want it to leave the right way. And at the time, I called my boss, and Annie called her boss, but waited until I was at least on the phone with my boss. So I called my boss. He didn't pick up the phone. He called me back right away. And he was basically a little in shock, but he had known we were potentially looking to go. But he had no idea where we were going to go. But I think somewhere deep in his conscience, he had to have known, but maybe he didn't. So maybe he was surprised, but he was basically trying to tell us to stay. And, when you're making that move, I've heard of advisors that have stayed. In our situation with the lease and everything, it would, no matter what he would have said. Now, of course, part of me is that I'm a very dedicated person, and I was dedicated to him the entire time I was there. And obviously my hopes were he was going to say, "Oh, congratulations." He didn't say that, but he wasn't rude or anything about it. I heard some things afterward that were said that were probably not nice, not to me, to other people. And so, it was a situation in which also, by the way, I had my letter of resignation emailed to him. It was a funny story in the concept that my email box was full, not knowing that my email box was full, because it actually must have filled up that night. And some of these, email servers, once your email gets full, it won't let you send out an email. So I actually was deleting emails, and getting rid of, correspondence between me and wholesalers or whatever about regular business activity, so that I could get this email out to him as far as if he asked for an actual letter of resignation, which he did. And so I sent that to him, and Annie then called her boss, and her boss was, I would say sad, wanted her to stay, but at the same time kind of understood to some extent. And when we left, we took our personal belongings, asked him I told him what we're taking. He said, go ahead and take it. You kind of want to be really by the book in this circumstance, specifically with broker protocol, but even if not broker protocol. And our office was only a few miles down the street. So we headed out to our office, and literally, and by the way, who was at our office on that Friday? It was only two of us. There was four of us here. There was me, Annie, somebody from the Super OSJ showed up for the weekend. They were new, so they were just basically there to kind of lend support and help get us lunch or do, help with stuff. But they were kind of new on the system, so they couldn't do a whole lot at that point. And then Joe, who actually recruited us, actually showed up that day, which was awesome to have him kind of as emotional support. So we called Joe the minute we left, and Joe, funny enough, the minute we got into our office, said your licenses and everything are approved and you're ready to go. And that was shocking to us, because a lot of times when you leave firms, it takes a couple hours. Sometimes it can take over the weekend. It could take a couple days. And we were kind of under that thought that it might take us a couple days, but it took like 25 minutes. It was shockingly fast. And it was shockingly fast for him. He was like, wow, this is super fast. So he's like, you can start making calls if you're ready. So we had our broker protocol lists up, and we also had an email that was typed up. We actually, stole some of the material of what it said as far as from other advisors that had made this jump. And by the way, shout out to everybody that helped us with the thoughts. I mean, there were some advisors that had went independent in Palm Beach Gardens. Shout out to Tom and Lindsay and Frank. Thank you guys for your guys' help. But we went through that thought of like, we're going to send that email out to the clients immediately, and then it's Jerry Maguire time by all accounts. So, by the way, in our pre-setup, and I know I'm going all over the place, but in our pre-setup, we did have tea and lemons and things for our throat lozenges, so that our throats were good to go, and we were able to, not run out and lose our voice, as we were going through this process. So we literally started making calls like 9:30. I think we sent the email out. Again, don't hold me to these times. Around 9:15, we sent the email out to the clients, basically stating that we had left the firm and here's why we left. Not here's why we left, but why, why we were excited, more or less. And we also had letters ready to go, and we had one of the people that were here drop that off at the post office, so that anybody that wasn't getting our email was going to get our letter, because a lot of clients, elderly clients per se, don't check their emails a lot and correspond. So the minute we sent that email, it was Jerry Maguire time. But here was the difference. So Burt Sugar in the movie Jerry Maguire, if anybody that hasn't seen this movie, go see it. Jerry Maguire is the top agent. I was the top advisor down here in South Florida. And, you know, when you leave a firm, your accounts or your clients are sent out to other people in the bank to try to retain your clients. And normally that can happen within an hour. It can happen within a day. We got lucky because those lists were not sent out, I don't believe, until Monday. So we actually had a little bit of a head start, which was great. So, you know, first, by the way, as we're driving over, I just want to make this clear. I called two of the upper managements for my current boss, and they were actually very complimentary. One of them said, "What can we do to keep you to stay? I doubt you're going to stay." He was awesome. He was a mentor. I learned a lot from him. It sucks that, you know, I don't get to talk to him a lot anymore. And another one who was upper said, you know, you made the right decision. And, you know, he's off the record. He said he made the right decision and, you know, was just very supportive of the move. And so we were really, you know, I was excited to have those conversations. At least, you know, they appreciated me while I was there and appreciated me leaving. And were, you know, I wouldn't say excited, not excited by any means, but at least they were happy for me, which I'll always remember that. So we started making calls. Now, this is Jerry Maguire, but like I was saying with the Burt Sugar situation, Burt wasn't in until Monday. So nobody was calling. We were able to call the clients through the broker protocol, tell them we were leaving, and we got an overwhelming response. But forget that. I'll talk about that momentarily. We made phone calls from 9:30 to about 2. We had somebody order us lunch. My throat was doing okay. I was drinking my tea and my lemon. And we called all the way up until about 7:30, 8 o'clock that night, and then went home. Some people do it only till 4. We wanted to try to reach every client that day. I was not able to do it, but we really tried hard. And while we're making calls, so I would take the calls, I would have the conversation, and if the client did want to go forward, they would give the information needed to open the accounts to Annie, and Annie would take that information for Monday, because come Monday, we were going to have a few people coming in to help us with the ACATs, and I'll talk about that momentarily. So we did all that. We had a list of sheets kind of ready to go, telling the clients to be patient. Some of them wanted the money moved right away, and a lot of them said, you know, we're so excited for you. We really didn't get anybody. There was maybe 1 or 2 people that were like, you know, let us think about it. You know, we weren't able to reach some people. Some people were actually out of town and didn't call us back. You know, the funny thing is when you go independent, it's so important for you to, and again, when I say it, going independent, leaving your firm and going to another firm, it's so important for you to get your clients, if they want to come with you, it's a lot more important for you to do it right away than it is for them. But a lot of our clients actually were really wanting to move quick. And we were trying our best to say, hey, Monday, we're going to get your accounts out. And the people that were more, you know, wanting to move quick, were doing that. A lot of them said, we only banked at the bank because you were there, which was, you know, good to hear. You're wanting to hear that encouragement. We did have, like I said, 1 or 2 clients. Nobody said, like, we don't want to come with you. We did have 1 or 2 clients that said, you know, let us think about it. And we said, no problem, and left them alone till they called us. But most were excited, and we stopped at 8 o'clock. Saturday we get in. There's nobody here other than there's the 3 of us. Excuse me, there's only 2 of us now. It's just me and Annie. Nick had gone home. He was just there for that opening day. Joe had gone home. You know, he doesn't know how to open the accounts or anything, so there's not much Joe could do other than, you know, lend that emotional support. Saturday, we started at 8 a.m. and we called all the way through 8 o'clock at night, and we pretty much got most of everybody reached by Friday and Saturday. We came in Sunday, and we came in at about 8 o'clock again. We did not know that our building didn't keep the AC on Sundays. So this is August in South Florida. It was hot. Annie had a floor heater, which turned into an AC, which she keeps the heat on constantly, never puts the AC on. She's always cold. She had that for us, which was great. So I used a little bit. She used it a little bit. I think we had think we had a fan too. I'm not sure about that. I think we might have brought in a fan also. And Sunday we made those calls, and we literally got everybody reached by Sunday at like 4 o'clock. We wrapped it up, and my voice was officially gone. It was, you couldn't even understand me at this point. My throat was gone. Monday comes around, and on Monday we had a huge team here. We had a team of 4 that joined us. So we had Jeremy Masulo. Shout out to Jeremy. He was awesome. Hopefully I have him on the podcast at some point. And we had 3 of the firm's account sign up people, and they worked their butts off, and they got out these ACATs super fast. We were leaving a firm that didn't have really DocuSign, and we were joining a firm that did, which made the conversions a lot simpler. So we were able to get things out a lot quicker. And Monday was stressful because what we did know is at some point our clients were going to start getting called. And again, I have no inside knowledge to this, but my old firm, like, they basically let the advisors know, like, hey, Evan's going to have a real rough time running the business and keeping care of clients, which wasn't true because we actually had a super OSJ at the time that was helping us. And they also said, like, we didn't have the same money managers and products, which wasn't accurate at all. But he did, from what I did, and again, I'm hearing this all secondhand, but he did give us some compliments saying he's probably going to take a lot of clients because he's a good financial planner. So he did give us a compliment there, and we did. I think we ended up, I want to say we ended up north of 93%, somewhere, 93, 94% of clients came that we reached out to, which was tremendous. So, especially on the bank channel, when you're leaving, I think the odds are somewhere around 40 to 50%. So we were excited about that. We were moving. We did have a couple clients that got talked into staying. One of them ended up coming back to us later. The other one ended up leaving. It just didn't get the service, and got sold to stay. And there was a couple people that we had just brought aboard over the last 3 or 4 months that stayed, and we figured they were going to stay. They were anybody that just has a relationship with you but got introduced to you by the bank or the firm, it could potentially be somebody that you're probably not going to bring with you if you haven't built a relationship. So relationships are obviously key to doing that. We did have an attorney. So for anybody making the change, some of the firms will hire an attorney for you. Having that good attorney by your side, shout out to Brian, was huge because he just gives you the confidence what decisions you're making are the right decisions and things that you don't need to be worried about. He's gone through those transitions before. So it was an exciting time. It was a nervous time. It was an emotional time. As you're starting to see your assets come over the next few weeks, you're counting, those come up, your level of anxiety starts to decrease because you're, while you have relationships with your clients, you know what the other side is saying. We did have a couple circumstances where the other side was saying we don't offer this or we don't offer that, which was like, I don't know where they got that information. It wasn't accurate. It wasn't true. And, to this day, my old boss, I've texted him a couple times, but from what I hear, he's not happy I left. And for me, I never quite understood it. And then as I speak to other people that are in the business, they go, Evan, you took his revenue. You took his, you were his top guy. You took, so to him, I think I'm finally getting to understand it. But it hurts you. It hurts you when you have relationships, and it's tough as an advisor and you leave one firm and go to another. It's not, if there's anything hard, it's that, leaving the bank relationships and the friends and the people that you make along the way, very important. My last piece of advice on this day, other than eat good, be prepared. Have your preparations in place. Make sure you're doing it by the book. If you're leaving from non-protocol to non-protocol, know what contracts you've signed. Have that lawyer look at that. Make sure you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's. You don't want there to be any misunderstandings. And make sure that you do the right thing for your clients. If your clients want to come, they want to come. If they don't, leave them alone. And that's okay too. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I'm going to do another podcast in the future that's going to go a little bit more into the setup of when we actually had to set up our office. For those that are not independent or never going to go independent might not be interested in that episode. I think everybody can kind of understand this episode because you are leaving and you are making that change. But the other podcast I'll do in the future, we'll talk a little bit about how we set up the office, the lease negotiations. That's probably one of the harder parts. The payroll setup is easy, and that was great. We're going to actually have somebody on from Insperity in a couple weeks who is initially who I went through and I'm still with today through payroll. So they make all those things that of like, oh my God, I'm running my own business. They make all those things easy. And running the business maybe takes me an hour to 2 a month to run the actual business portion. But, you know, clients get the other, 50 hours or whatever. So it's one of those things when you make this move, it's a dreaded day. It's a day full of excitement. And that sounds like a complete oxymoron, but that's just it. That's the way your mind is that day and that weekend. And make sure the AC is turned on Sundays. Like I said, that was a tough day, a sweating day. And yeah, just make sure you're prepared. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we look forward to the next one. Speak to you soon.